Good morning, students. Good morning to all. And last day we have studied about the advantages and the disadvantages of the multinational companies. And on that day itself, that lesson was completed, and you got all the same portions. So today we will go to the next chapters. So next chapter, ninth chapter is government organization. So government organizations also one of the form of business organizations as we have studied already. So the public enterprises as a form of business organizations gained economic importance in most of the countries of the world in recent years. So during the 20th century, various governments started participating in industrial and commercial activities. Because before that, some of the capitalists only was dominated the full economy of the nations. So by understanding the profit of the capitalist, the government started to come to the business organizations. So previously the role of government was limited only to the maintenance of law and order. But after the industrial revolutions helped all round growth of industries. So private entrepreneurs worked only for the profit motive. The exploitation of consumers and workers by private entrepreneurs was very common. When the capitalists, so the private organizations, when they are imposing the economy in our nations, they will have only one motive, the objective of earning profit. So when they have the objective of earning profit, there was no chance to providing the welfare for the public. So by considering these obstacles, the government started the industrial sectors. And at that time also, the industrial revolution was very efficiently. So the development of industries was left to the judgment of private enterprises. Therefore, the government intervention became necessary to safeguard the interest of the public, even in developed countries like USA, UA, and some of the nations. So the government can own and control industries and business in two ways. So if the government want to come to the business world, they have to do something. So the government must can own and control some of the industries and business in two ways. In whichever method mean by starting the new industry. If the government started any of the new industries, they can establish more capital and it will come to the control and own. Next, by taking over an existing industrial or commercial unit owned by private persons. If any of the private persons are conducting any of the industries, and by that, if you are not getting any of the social welfare, the government will taking over that industries. And if any of the industries is conducted by the private industries, it has more potential to the economy of nations, so the government can taking over than existing industries. Okay. So next, the meaning of departmental undertaking. So even in the governmental organizations, so many of the branches of government are undertakings are there. So one of the government organization is departmental undertaking. So the department form of organization of managing state enterprises is the oldest form of organization. So in those days, no distinction was made between the routine functions of the government and that of the public enterprises. Therefore, most of the early state-owned enterprises were the best examples of the department form of organizations. So under the departmental form of organizations, a public enterprises is run as a separate full-fledged ministry or as a major subdivision of a department of the government. Suppose the departmental undertaking will be undertaken by the full ministry fledged, otherwise the part of the government. The best example is the railway, the Indian railways. The Indian railways are managed by the Ministry of Railways, and the post and telegraph service are run as a department. So this is also established by the government, and it will also come to the under ministry. So the Delhi Milk Scheme, All India Radio, Doordarshan or other example of departmental undertakings are there. So these departmental undertakings also will be earned some amount of the money by providing the public welfare. So each undertakings also will be separated as a department wise. Okay, next the features of departmental undertaking. So when we have studied about the departmental undertakings, so some of the features also will be there. So what are the features are there in this departmental undertaking mean? First one is ultimate responsibilities. The responsibility of departmental undertakings will be abundantly and importantly. So the ultimate responsibility for the management of a departmental undertaking lies with the minister concerned. So every departmental undertaking also will come under the ministry of one of the ministries. So who is responsible to the parliament or state legislator for the affairs of the departmental undertaking? For example, we can say the police departmental and the fire service and the postals and the telecommunications and some of the examples are there. So every departmental also will come under the direct control of the minister concerned. So when they have the minister concerned or the minister's responsibilities, so there is no chance to arise any of the problem, and their providing services also will be very efficient and quick manner, because if any of the problem is arised, the good name of the minister also will be struggled. So every ministers or every ministries also will have the most atmosphere responsibilities in these departmental undertakings. So the minister in turn delegates his authority downwards to various other management levels in the departmental undertakings. So in these departmental undertakings, there may be more authorities persons. So the authorities persons also have to obey to the ministry or the minister. So if the authorities persons are even maybe the corruption by the direct control of the ministers, there is no chance to making any of the problems. Next, governmental financing. The departmental undertaking is financed through annual budget appropriations by the parliament or the state legislators. So we have studied already, every year the government will preparing the annual budget. So whenever they are preparing the annual budget, the departmental undertaking will receiving more financial facilities to improve the activities, day by day activities and their building and their infrastructure also. So in these governmental organizations, if any of the financial problem is arised, so it will quickly demolished by the government. So and not only that, when they are preparing the annual budget itself, they will allot some of the surplus finance, because in these departmental services must be providing the good services to the public without any trouble and without any shortage. Even in any of the risk time, also the government has to provide the welfare. So due to the shortage of financial, if any of the problem is arised, so the ministries or the ministers also will get the bad name, and their government also will get some of the bad name. So the state legislator and the parliament also will providing the more financial facilities for undertaking the governmental, the departmental undertakings. So the revenues of the undertaking are paid into the government treasuries. But in the same time, some of the departmental undertakings will earning some amount of the money. Or what are the income is earned by the departmental undertakings will go to the government treasury directly. So there is no chance to making more profit with their individual persons. So what are the profit is earned by the departmental undertaking? So it will be going to the government treasury only. Next, accounting and audit. The departmental undertaking is subject to the normal budgeting, accounting and audit procedures which are applicable to all government departments. So even if the governmental organization, the departmental organization is subject to the normal budgeting, accounting and audit procedures. So in whichever way we have to maintaining one of the accounting, like by the same way only. So the departmental undertakings also have to maintaining their accountings and the audit services. The auditing of the departmental undertaking also have to submitted in every year. For the separate auditor will be appointed by the government itself. So the auditor will be audit as a correct as a proper manner. So there is no chance to maintain or arrest the corruptions. Next, managed by civil servants. The departmental undertaking is managed by the civil servants who are subject to the same service conditions as applicable to civil servants of the government. So I think you may have knows about the civil services exams. So this departmental undertakings also will be managed by the civil servants. The civil servants also required under the civil service examinations like IAS, IPS, IFS and some of the postings. So these all the civil servants will be as a specified knowledge or fully knowledge about their department. If you are considering the IAS also will have the full or thorough knowledge or specialized skills to managing the one district. So like that, every authority persons or every departmental undertakings also will be managed by the civil servants. So the work and the services also will be very efficient and the quickly, and their providing services also will be in proper manner. Next, sovereign immunity. A departmental undertaking cannot be issued anybody without the consent of the government. So even if the departmental undertakings will have some of the problems, the government have to arrange any of the committee to inquire the problems, and no one will make the sue on the departmental undertakings if any of the problem is raised in their day-by-day activities. So the 5 features are there. First one is ultimate responsibility and the governmental financing and accounting and audit. Next, managed by civil servants and sovereign immunity. Next, advantages of departmental undertakings. So what are the advantages are there when we are conducting the departmental undertakings? First one is easy formations. So it is the easy to set up a departmental undertakings. The departmental undertakings is created by an administrative decision of the government involving no legal formalities for these formations. So if the governments being in need of establish any of the departmental undertakings, they can easily form it. By establishing any of the enactment in the parliament or the state legislative assemblies, the government can easily arrange it. So without having any of the rules and regulations and norms and conditions, it can easily arranged by the government or under the ministries. So even if any of the capital is needed, the full required capital is done by the government itself. So the departmental undertaking is one of the requirement of the government. So if the government is thinking or decided to establish it, it is very easy to form it. Next, direct and control of parliament or state legislator. If any of the departmental undertaking is established by the central government, so the direct and control will be by the parliament. And if it is established by the state legislative or state government, so the control also will be controlled by the state legislative assembly. So the departmental undertaking is directly responsible to the parliament or the state legislator through its overall head, the minister concerned. So already we have studied in our nations or in our state, so many of the departmentals are there. So the police departmental or milk department and the railway department and what other department are there. So in every department is also direct and controlled by the parliament and the state legislative assemblies. Even if there is more managers and the board of directors and some of the authority persons, so they will direct and controlled by the parliament and the state legislative assemblies, because it was concerning with the minister and the ministries. So all the direct and controlled by the parliament and legislative assemblies. So there is no problem to arise any of the problem and any of the corruptions also. Next is secrecy maintained. The strategic industries like defense and atomic power cannot be better managed other than government departments. So the department undertakings can maintain secrecy in their workings. So some of the departmental is must be controlled and established or owned by the government only, because some of the industries like defense and the atomic powers cannot able to conducted by the private industries, because the secrecy of the working in the atomic and the defense must be the protecting of the whole nations. So the protection of the nations must be protected by the government only. So the department undertakings can maintain secrecy in their working. So what are the secrecy is created by the department, so it will be maintained as secretly. So when we are comparing to the private organizations, the secrecy will never maintained, because on the objectives of earning profit, some of the labor or manager or some of the authorized person itself will be spread over their secrecy and their departmentals. Next, less burden of tax. So earnings of departmental undertakings are entirely paid into government treasury, so resulting in lesser tax burden on the public. So most of the earning is earned by the departmental undertakings is going to the government treasuries. So because of that, the tax paying on the public will be reduced abundantly. So by conducting the departmental undertakings, so the public will be leaving from paying the tax on the government. Next, instrument of social change. So the government can promote economic and social justice through departmental undertakings. Hence, a departmental undertaking can be used by the government as an instrument of social change. So some of the problems arised among the peoples or among the societies will be demolished or eliminated by the government and some of the departmental undertakings. So some of the crime is arranged among the societies. The police department will be taking action. So when they are taking actions, some of the social change will be made in our societies. So like that, wherever some of the problems like this arised, so the department will be taking actions and they will bring some of the social change. Next, lesser risk of misuse of public money. As the departmental undertaking is subject to budgeting, accounting, and audit procedures of the government, the risk of misuse of public money is relatively less. So, when we are comparing to the private organizations, there also will be maintaining the accounting and the auditing. But when they are doing like so, some of the corruptions and their retapism may be arranged. So the corruption is also will be existing in the government organizations. But even in this departmental undertakings, many of the higher authorities and some of the ministers will be there. And under the controlling of the ministries only, all the budgeting and accounting and audit process will be conducting. So the risk of misuse of public money will be relatively less, because most of the income is going to the government treasuries through the government undertakings only in the form of public. So the public money will never going to higher. So the lesser risk of misuse of public money will be there under the governmental undertakings. Next, the guided by rules and regulations of the ministries. The officers of the departmental undertaking are under the supervisions of the direct administrative control of the ministries. So even the management of the governmental undertakings is managed by the civil servants. So they are going to guided by rules and regulations of the ministries. Even in these ministries, many of the civil servants are there and some of the specialized knowledge persons are also there. So the civil servants also will be going to guided by rules and regulations of the ministries. They are guided by the rules and regulations of the ministry framed with the focus on public welfare. So even if any of the public servants or the civil servants have the profit motive, the social welfare only must be maintained by the rules and regulations of the ministries. Okay, students, today we have studied the advantages of departmental undertakings and the features of the departmental undertakings. So today just to take the study portions also as same. If you have any doubt, please ask me. Thank you.